Hello, in this video we will discuss about the lactic acidosis, that is the basically is problem. So we will discuss about the physiological aspects. And here is the lactic acid is basically endogenous substrate for gluconeogenesis that is constantly produced by muscle due to the hard work, exercise, and other tissue. Lactic acid is non-toxic basically, though it can cause a metallic acidosis. So the lactate is the conjugated base of lactic acid. Lactic acidosis is defined as an uh, arterial lactate level is basically more than 2 millimole per liter. So it means the more than 2 millimole per liter. If the less than 2 millimole per liter, it means the normal. So increase of the value will be cause the effect, side effect. So the pH should be 7.35 is the more than 7.35, but the normal pH is less than 7.35. So here is look at that is the basically here is a plant which that produce oxygen due to the photosynthesis, and this oxygen we are inhale into our body through lungs. So when move into the lungs, it is transfused into the blood due to the partial pressure. That partial pressure are present in the circulatory system, as well as the partial pressure are present in the outside of the environment, which that is lead to exhale and inhale the carbon dioxide as well as oxygen. So here is we will discuss about what is the basically the oxygen relation. So impaired oxygen delivery is basically the lactic acid A type. So the impaired oxygen utilization by cell is the type B. It means the oxygen is delivered in the not delivered in the body. That is basically the type A, while the impaired oxygen utilization by cell, it is very difficult due to the thiamine. That is the vitamin B which that is used for as a thiamine. That is deficiency of the thiamine will lead to impaired oxygen utilization by cell. So the aerobic respiration is through this mechanism. So let's begin to understand in the metabolic pathway in the liver. Here is the liver, and we will also understand the muscle which that is produce the lactic acid, and on the other hand the adipose tissue we will discuss about which that is the relation, and we will also understand about the renal system which that is also. So basically that is a basically simple video to understand, that is the overview for understanding the lactic acidosis. So let's begin to understand. Basically here is the muscle or tissue cell, basically the all type of tissue. So it's contain a cell. This cell is basically when the GLUT4 and 2 channel are present in this cell. So the sugar from the blood to move inside of the cell through insulin, basically the insulin production. So the insulin will allow to move the glucose inside intracellularly. So the glucose will move and glycolysis will occur and pyruvate will be produced. That is the anaerobic respiration. So the lactate will be produced due to the anaerobic respiration through the from glycolysis to pyruvate, and the lactate dehydrogenase enzyme used to it. So the basically is the the occurs when oxygen is absent. So the pyruvate will not move into the mitochondria for oxidative phosphorylation, because here is the oxygen which that is basically is the in the blood, which that is transfused due to the partial pressure differentiation. So that's produced the water after the oxidative phosphorylation to produce ATP also. So basically the lactate move into the blood. It means when will move into the blood, that acidic medium will be increased. So it will be move into the liver also, and that means the blood lactic acid elevation will be cause the lactic acidosis. So the sickle cell anemia and iron deficiencies also lead to lactic acidosis. Why? Because the red blood cell is important for the capturing of oxygen and deliver to the tissue for the aerobic respiration. So here is the digestive system, which that is also the problem for increasing the lactic acid. That is, lactic acid is known as the D-lactate. This lactic acidosis will be a diabetic ketoacidosis also occur for the diabetic. So the growth of the bacteria in our gut, that is the microbiota, are present in our gut digestive system, the large intestine. So this is the large intestine, which that's contain basically ascending colon, transfer colon, and descending colon. So here is basically the lactate, D-lactate will be formed. So the lactate D form into the gut bacteria, our growth. So the fermentation will be occur in the absence of the oxygen. So the bacteria will be produce the D-lactate, which that is moved into the blood after the absorption. So that absorption will be lead to increase the D-lactate. So anyhow, the lactate is the basically from gut bacteria, our growth, and that is the one more reason about that. So let's begin to understand about the oxygen consumption here, and here is the we can understand with the graph to understand the lactate production. So the here is the delivery of the oxygen, while here the consumption of the vertically consumption of the oxygen is a VO2. So the anaerobic basically is the delivery of oxygen is less than the consumption of the oxygen. So that is the type A. While on the other hand, if we will talk about the type type B, which that is the aerobic state, which that is the basically is the consumption of the oxygen is less than the delivery of the oxygen. So it means the cell is damaged or something which that is related to that, and basically is the impaired, and that is we will discuss. First is the anaerobic anaerobic delivery of the oxygen is less than the consumption of the oxygen. So it means during the exercise it can be possible. So here is the type impaired oxygen delivery is the basically the decrease. So decrease the oxygen delivery, and cardiac arrest and hypoxia will be occur, and increase oxygen demand. It will lead to stress and pain. While on the other hand, the type B, which that is the impaired oxygen utilization. So the basically the consumption of the oxygen is basically is the drug, toxin, ethanol, methanol, which that is cause this impaired oxygen utilization. So impaired clearance system, which that is the liver failure and renal failure. So the alcohol is when produced the acetaldehyde, and a lot of NADH will be produced, which that is inhibit the glycolysis, even also inhibit the Krebs cycle in the mitochondria. Why? Because the NADH is a lot of NADH are present in the cell, so we will not more need to produce the NADH. So that means the basically the alcohol is dangerous to lactic acidosis. So the Cori cycle we will discuss here is the in the liver hepatocyte. The oxygen deprived cell produce lactate. In the presence of oxygen, the liver, kidney convert lactate back to pyruvate. So the repairing the oxygen debt of the tissue. So oxygen will repair again, and that means the lactate will be we will discuss about the resolving of the lactate. So anyhow, the kidney is play same function in just like a liver. So basically here we will discuss here the mitochondria, and the lactate or D-lactate will be entered into the liver, that is converted into the pyruvate in the presence of the LDH, which that is the lactic acid dehydrogenase, lactate dehydrogenase, and after the produce the gluconeogenesis to produce glucose, and this glucose will move into the when move into the blood, it will move into the myocytes, a muscle cell basically, and that glycogenesis will be occur, and more that is the glucose will move into the adipose tissue to lipogenesis will be occur. So the anabolism will be occur due to the elevation of the sugar in the blood. So important thing is that here is the glycogenesis will be occur in the liver, and this glycogenesis will produce the glyconeogenesis or glycogenolysis. So the glycogenolysis here is not glyconeogenesis, which that is inhibited by the elevation of the glucose by the gluconeogenesis. So remember about that. That thing is basically also inhibit the catabolism of the glycogen. So here is the 10% muscle clearance by the lactate, and the 70% is the liver, while the 20% clearance is the kidney, which that is same mechanism. And lactate clearance in liver is the 100% is made up of 70% liver, 20% kidney, and the 10% muscle clearance. So that is all the lactate clearance. But anyhow, there are a lot of complication will lead to increase the lactic acidosis, which that is lead to death, as well as there are many complication, which that is I am not adjusting.